All right, welcome back. We are MDEV1004. That's Mobile ABIs and Frameworks in the summer 2024 semester at Georgian, and it's week 9, part 2 of our broadcast and recording. And in this one, we're going to continue with what we did last time, with what we were doing last time, which is trying to build the iOS portion of the user interface. Okay. Again, this recording might go long. And because we have so much to do with the Android stuff as well. Let's continue. So back to my Mac. All right, so when we created this, right? But we need a vehicle from getting from here to here, okay? And one of those vehicles is going to be I'm going to do a segue, right, from one thing to the other. Now notice that here, we're going to bring up the outliner for a second, and I'm just going to hide this piece, right? So there's two parts to this thing, right? We have two controllers, and I want to make a segue between one controller and the other, right? And there's many ways to do that, kind of thing. But really, at the end of the way, I can just control drag from one controller to the other, and I just want to show the details. So that's that, or just show. And so this creates a segue. Okay, that's what this does. The segue itself, if you click on it, it has some configuration details, right? So if I go here, the identifier is what we're going to change later on. Okay. But that's something that we need to modify. So the segue has to be created first before we do any kind of conversion or control, moving from one controller to the other. We need to do that. Okay, so that's the way. That's going to be our navigation process. We're going to be very simple, just like intents on Android. That's what the segue is, right at the end of the day. Okay, so that's the first thing we did. We just control drag from this controller to this controller and create the segue. Okay. The next piece we need to do is modify our movie view controller now. So our movie view controller is basic. And again, what we're looking at doing is taking it to the next level with the stuff that we need to do. So let's do that. So let's see where we're at with it. So right now, what we have is a movie, right? And we have a UI table view. That's the table view itself. In the view did load, we fetch movies. Our fetch movie function right now is pretty good, right? Because it fetches movies. It says if there's no movies available or whatever. If there's an error, there's an error. All that stuff is pretty good. Okay, there's nothing that we need to really figure it out here. This is complete, right, from last week. Our display error message, right, again, it gives us an error, okay. This is pretty good too. And then fetch movies right now, the fetch movies part, right, in the fetch movies method, right, we have a guard let for the URL here. This is the URL object, which returns basically a, kind of goes and lists everything. That's what it does so far for fetching movies. One thing that we're going to need to do for next week when we come back is for next week, we need to retrieve the token, right? And there's many ways we can do that. We can store the token somehow in user defaults, right? And remember that the token is going to come when we log in. Okay, so we don't have that login screen yet, but we will have to incorporate that somehow. Okay, and then, right, we've configured the request, right? Right now we're having our URL where last week we had a URL session shared data task, right? And we did it kind of like in one, right? So where we had, this is the guard let here is really what we're doing is configuring the request. So this is configure the request. We already did this last week. I'm just kind of going over it with you, right? We handled the error here. That's one part. And the request object itself, right, is there's the URL share data task, and what we have here is if let. Here's the if let error, right, as an example. Then we have an error, and then we get the data. Okay, but really, if we need to for authorization, we need to do another step here. So again, for authorization, for authentication, we need another step. Okay, so next week we'll put it right here. For this one, we don't need another step because we don't need to authenticate this week. We're just getting and doing stuff. So here we're issuing the request. This is where the request is actually being done. Issue the request, right? And then we get some data or whatever, and then we get the response back, and the response comes back as how this kind of works, which was we already got a response back and all this stuff. So this is beautiful. This is all good, all right? And this is something that we've already done from last week. This is the fetch movies. This is kind of the fetch movies function. Okay, that's what this is. I want to move into other things now, right? We have a couple things. We have some default built-in, kind of functionality that we must override, right? Because we've said that our movie view controller is of type UI view controller and implements the UI table view delegate and data source protocols, right? We must have these overridden, which is what we did last week, okay? In our table view cell, what we did was we loaded it up, and we basically had a rating kind of that we colored the rating and all that kind of stuff down here. And up to here, we're good. But now we need to kind of do some new stuff. So new for in-class exercise 8, let's add the new stuff down here, okay? So we're gonna say func, and we're gonna go the table view, and I wanna do table view did select row at, so this one, table view did select row at, and that means if the user presses the row, the actual row itself, we wanna perform the segue to go to the next screen. All right, so we're going to do that. We're going to say perform segue, right? And we need the function perform segue. We have to create a function that allows us to perform the segue, right? And that because that's what I want to create. Like some kind of way of moving from one thing to the other, right? So there's some things we need to do, okay, in order for us to do this. But for now, I'm just going to put it in, even if it's an error. So we're going to say perform. I'm going to say just going to make sure I got my notes correct. So here we're going to perform segue, and the perform segue with identifier, right? The identifier is the add edit segue. We have to change that segue so it says that the add edit segue. Okay, that's what that is, right? And the sender is index path. So when I click on the index path, when I click on the or press actually. If I press on a field, like one of the rows, it's going to perform the segue. But we need to add this add edit segue. That's the identifier. Remember I talked about this. I'm going to copy this. So Command C, go back to main storyboard, click on the segue, this part, and then what I'm going to do is pull that open. And then with identifier, we're going to put that add edit segue in there. Also won't work. Okay, so that's what that does. Okay, so that's the segue. And then back to movie view controller. Right, so movie view controller, we add edit segue. We're going to, when I press on the row, we're going to go there. So what about, can we make this work? That's the thing we want to do. Is there enough information for us to be able to do the thing we need to do, right? And we do need a button. And I also want to be able to prepare for segue, right? The prepare for segue is actually a really important piece that we want to add. So before we do the segue, I want to override the function prepare. Okay, that's what I want to be able to do. And let's get that done. So we're just going to override the prepare, right? And it's the prepare is for segue, right? So prepare, and then for segue, that's what that is. Prepare for segue, and what we want to do is we want to use the UI storyboard segue. This is the type we want. That's the type it's going to be, and we're going to say that with the sender as any type. Okay, and so what we're going to do when we override this one is, yeah, the function keyword would be good, of course. Override function prepare for segue. Okay, and what we want to say, if the segue dot identifier is equal to the add edit segue, right? Then, and this is just some preparation that we're doing here. Then what we want to do is we want to say if let the, we're going to say add edit view controller. That's, we're going to make a reference to the segue dot destination as, we're going to cast it as the add edit API view controller. So this, what this does is we're going to make a reference, right, to the add edit view controller, and we're going to store this inside of this identifier right here. Okay, and we're going to do that so we can pass data. Okay, and we're going to say basically, okay, so now that we've done that, we're going to say the add edit view controller, that's what that is, dot CRUD view, the CRUD view controller, right? The add edit, which is the movie view controller, this one, that's what we called it. That is equal to self. So what this does is we're going to bind the movie view controller to this one, so we know where we can go back to. That's what this thing this thing does. We're also going to say if let index path equals to sender as index path, right? Then we're editing an existing movie. We're going to say let movie, we're going to set that information, movie equal to movies, and we're going to put it at the index path dot row. Okay, so that's what that's going to do for us, right? So we're going to say that index path dot row, that's the movie that we're editing, and then we're going to say that add edit view controller, right, dot movie, this is where we're going to set the movie, so we know is equal to the movie that we're sending over. So this is us sending a movie over to the next screen. Okay, that's what we're doing. Else, what about if it's not true, right? So we don't have anything that we haven't clicked on anything. Then we're going to say that we're adding a new movie. Excuse me. We're adding a new movie. There you go. And we're going to say that add add edit view controller dot movie is equal to nil. So this is if doesn't exist, like we said earlier. Remember, we kind of did that over here. We said that in this part, we're checking to see, here's movie. This is what we're accessing. And movie view controller is of type movie view controller, right? That's what this is. So we're saying we can access this one. We can actually physically access this movie from the other view controller, and we can put it in place. So if movie exists, if this exists, then do this, right? Set it up. If it exists, kind of load it up with something. If it doesn't exist, right, then it's down here where we're adding a new movie, right? That's what's happening. So that's what we're doing here in the storyboard. In the storyboard, in the movie view controller, right? And that's what we've done up to here. Okay. So now let's also set the callback. Set the callback closure, that's what that is, right? To reload movies. And the way this is going to be is add edit view controller dot movie update callback, that one, movie update callback. That's going to equal to, and this is where we're going to make a an object where we're going to say that is going to equal to weak self in, and we're going to self dot fetch movies, and we're going to pass in inside the fetch movies itself. We're going to use a completion closure for this one. Fetch movies, and we're going to pass in movies error in, and we're going to say if let movies, if it exists, then movies, and we're going to say self dot movies is equal to movies, right? And we're going to dispatch queue queue dot main dot async, and we're going to say that self dot table view dot reload data. So this is going to reload the data that's in the table view, as an example, if movies exist. If movies don't exist, let's say we've deleted them all, then it's not going to do it. Then else if let error, because that could happen, let's make that equal to error, right? Then what we can do is we can print something like failed to fetch movies, and we're going to show the error that occurred. That's what this is going to do. Okay? So that, let's make sure that there's no extra spaces here, just to make it easier for us to debug. So that is, let's make sure that that is the right thing. This one. That's this. And so now that is the override for that one. That's the override prepare function. And that is if we're going to move across from one thing to the other. One thing we don't have, which I think is a good time to add now, is in the main storyboard, we don't have a button. We have the prototype cell and we have favorite movies, but what we can do is probably move this up a little bit. Let's move this to the top, and let's add a button in here to, add a movie, right? Because we can't add a new movie, right, unless we do that. So this is like the add button, right? And the add button will say like, add a new movie, right? So we can do that by kind of pulling it in. We can say that we want to add a button, and we can pull that button into here, right? Let's actually undo that. Sorry, let's add a proper button. There's different buttons here, right? So there's a fill button, a gray button, a tinted button. I want to add this kind of button. So I want to add another button in here, right? And, we can kind of add that button in there, and then that button, again, so this button is a plain button, and the title is going to be called something like add movie. There's that button, okay? And you can also have a nice icon in there, that you can add it. You can make this nicer than this, because we have this, and then we have this. And I may definitely add this above that area, like up here. You can also add it in the middle if you want, right? Add a movie. I'm okay with wherever you add this button, doesn't matter where, okay? But this button, this add movie button, right, is what we want to access. And we need a reference to this inside of our code, right? Because we don't have that reference right now. I'm just going to bring up the assistant editor, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on the add movie, And what I want is for the add movie button to appear just below the stuff that we've already done. So we did fetch movies, and now we're into the table view. We did all that stuff. And then here is the prepare. Here's the perform segue. So before the prepare, somewhere in here, I want to make some space. And I want to make a reference. So I'm going to control drag from here to here. And we're going to call this the add button pressed. Add button pressed event. That's what that is going to be. The type, as always, is going to be of type UI button, because that's the type. We're being very explicit here, connect. And now this is connected, so you can see when that button is pressed. What do I want to do? Well, I want to add a new movie, right? So what we're going to do here is we're going to perform segue with identifier add edit segue, right? And the sender is going to be index path. Sorry, the sender is going to be nil because we're not pressing on anything. Remember, when the sender is nil, that means there's nothing to send. We're going to make a new one, right? We're going to create a new movie. So that's what this does. Okay? We can actually test some of this now because we don't want to move forward without being able to test this kind of stuff out. So I'm going to put this up on GitHub. So we're going to say git add dot git commit -m. We'll say that we added the add movie button and updated movie view controller. It's a big long update, but that's okay. And I'm going to git push. So that way it's going to push everything to GitHub for you guys, so you have that information. And this is good. Like I'm quite happy with this part, but we have to test it, and we know that it's going to spin down. So first thing we have to do is just make it so it spins up before we test. Otherwise, we're going to get faulty tests, and there's no point. Right? Like, what's the point of even trying it if we're not even getting a movie list yet? Okay, we don't have a lot in there, but we want to be able to add kind of new movies and stuff like that into the list. And I'm going to try and see if I can edit. The first thing I'm going to do is see if I can edit. Does it work? Does the editing work? And then what happens when I edit? Does it work? And then I can add. And if I've done that, I've really done the create, read, update. All that stuff is done. Create, read, and update on the iOS side. And then the next part is, can I delete? Which is the last part for this one. And then we're done with iOS. We're going to start fixing up Android. Again, this might be a longer video. If I have to go an extra bit of time, I will. I want to make sure that you guys have everything you need, right, so that you can make a choice when you're doing your assignment 4 or 3. What do you want to use? You want to use iOS or Android? And what about for the people online? Have you guys decided what you want to use? You guys want to use Android or iOS? I know we have Abik and as well as Sudesh and Sudarshan. What do you guys decided? Are you guys going to use iOS or Android?
iOS probably, sir.
Okay.
iOS for me too.
iOS?
iOS for me too, sir.
Wow, okay. iOS. Everyone's iOS. Okay, well, that's good. That's really brave of you guys. iOS is tough. All right, so let's try this out and see if it works now. We are ready to go. We're going to replace everything. And let's see if it craps out, if it works, like what's happening, kind of thing. Right, so there's our simulator. It worked. We have our add movie. Let's try editing a movie like The Matrix. So we're going to click on that. And hey, look at that. It all transferred over here. That's what we wanted to see. This is a beautiful thing, my friends. Let's change something. So transferring works. Let's call this, instead of Matrix, let's call this Matrix 2. It's not right, but let's try that, right? So I'm gonna kind of go in there and space Matrix 2, and let's click Update, and let's see what happens. Does it change? Oh man, did we get an error, right? Because it didn't really change, right? So if I click on this, did it actually change the Matrix 2, right? Because we didn't make that happen. Matrix 2, right? And we clicked Update, and then it didn't work. But why didn't it work? This is the thing that we were able to read, right? But let's see what we got in the error. right? So it says thread performance checker, and I just want to make sure that we can see everything. That's it. And what I want to do, and this is important to see, right? Because we're trying to see what the errors can be and all that kind of stuff. This is the error area right here. If we're going to get anything, well, we want to be able to see in here what the problem is. So let's get rid of this right now, and let's try it again, right? Because as we're moving, we want to be able to see the errors in place, and we can track the errors and see what the problem is. Like, why is it not updating? Now, the other thing to do is we can also track online. So let's see what actually happened on render. So if we go to render.com, what happened? Like, what are we getting back from the API? So if I go to logs on render, then we can see what happened. Okay, so here we are. So we had a 500, okay, a 500 error, right? And a 500 error, we tried to put something, it did try to present the update, but something went wrong. Like something that we're pushing to the server isn't working properly. You see that? So here's the thing we're trying to update, right? We're putting to this API movie update. We're updating this, right? But we don't know anything else. We don't have any other output here that's telling us what the issue is. So we tried, we got back a response that was an error. So on iOS now, what is that error and where can we check to see what that is? And what's happening is we're moving towards the add API CRUD view controller. We're able to move there. We created this stuff, and so now we can start printing some stuff out to see what we're getting, okay? Because we need to do this as we're troubleshooting. So we did this piece, right? And it did go to the right place. We know we did a put request, right? Because we got this, and we know we got this because we know we got all this part. Because if we looked at render, right, that we got this here, movie update. We actually had the proper, thing here, right? It's not a the list happened. That's okay. That's a 304, but the 500 is a problem. 500 means there's an error, and that's a server error. And what we could do on the API side is we could go back and we could basically give some more details about what that 500 error is. Like, what is that 500 error here? So when we check our logs, we get some feedback. But, right, we should also get some feedback from here on the Xcode side. So we were able to do this, and what we got to, if you think about it, is we got down here. We made a URL. Here's the request. We made a request, and then the response we got back was we didn't fail to send the request, but we got something else back. So the task itself, right, went fine. Here's our data. This is the data. So we have access to the data itself. This is the request object as we're getting back. Let's try and see what that data is. So let's go and do a print. We're going to print data. Okay. Now data is going to be whatever data is going to be, but let's try this again. We're just going to run it again. Yeah, it's fine. I don't care about that. And let's just run it again and replace everything. And let's see what we're going to get. So again, I'm going to go here and I'm just going to update the title to matrix 2 and click update. And now we should be able to get more details about what we got back. Okay. So it says thread performance checker. This is a backtrace that we got. Dispatch client output and so on. And where is our data? So we definitely want that stuff outputted. So make sure I'm in the right log area. No wireframes. That's fine. Okay, let's pull that back. That's the memory graph. So these are other information, piece of information. This is the first thread, the main thread. You know, as an example, you can see that there are different threads here that you can check out and so on. Let's just clear this up again. And what I want to see is what that data is. Let's do that again. So back to this, and let's just redo it. Yes, replace. Okay, and when I click this, no problem so far. We get all the information. And if I click up, what about if I click cancel? Does it take us back? That works. So cancel works. But updates, we get a bunch of these, right? We get all this information back. It says, threat performance checker, investigate ways to avoid priority inversions, process ID, and this is what's happening here. But what I'm looking for is, I'm looking for more data than what I'm getting, all right? So where is that happening? Let's actually start some other stuff. Let's see if I can get anything. Maybe I'm not really viewing my debug log properly, because that would be bad. Local variables. And I just want to make sure that I'm just not seeing anything. I'm not seeing my data, which is not what I want. And I'm not even getting there. Let's try somewhere else. I just want to see any print statement, because we're not even getting there. Okay, so let's try and do a print when I go to the view did load. Let's try that. Print. And we'll say here is add edit view controller. So we'll see that, and I'll print that out. Let's try that. When we go there, I want to see that print statement come out. So let's do that, and if I click this, then there it is, add edit view controller, so that we know that that's going in that space, right? And then when I edit, I want to get information that I'm editing. So let's go to the task response. Do I get there? Let task response. Before I do anything, I'm going to do a print. And we'll say response, right? And we'll run it again. And go there, click update, and there's the response. So here we're in the response area. So that's the response. And what I want to do is get the data from the response right here. So print, instead of the response, we'll say data, and then we'll say backslash data. Now there's not much information we can get from the data itself. We're just going to kind of output the data and see what that data object is, because that's the data if we get anything. And then we'll try what the response is, because we want to get this information, because that's going to come back at us, right? And let's try that again. So blum, update, data, optional 63 bytes is what it says. 63 bytes of data coming back at us. And why? Because the data that we're getting back, we're getting three things, right? Data, response, and the error. Let's try the response. What's the response type that we're getting back, right? What is the response? It's like a response text object. Let's try it again, right? And now we're going to get the same thing back. I want to be able to read that response object, right? So there, that's what I wanted. So the response is content encoding, text plain, accept encoding, dynamic, and a bunch of garbaggio. Not really anything. It says X powered by Express, and we know that the render server is render. That's the response. Doesn't really give us much, right? But I want to be able to get that. It does say code 500. It did tell us this, code 500 headers, right? And when we throw code 500, something happens. So what we need to do is we need to put some extra information in there, because we're getting an error. Like we're trying to do something here, and we're also I also want to set up the request. We can also look at the request object. Maybe the request object is broken, because this is the stuff that you may need to get. So response, that doesn't really give us much. But what about the request? So remember, we're putting the request in. We're saying request HTTP body is JSON encoder movie, right? And that's the request body. Let's see if we can decode that. So we're going to say print the request dot HTTP body. Let's see if we can do that. All right, so we're going to do that. This is the request. I'm going to say print request, and I want to see what we're getting. Maybe what we're sending is bad. Do you know what I'm saying? And if we're sending a bad thing, then that's what's causing our issue. Because we're getting a 500. 500 means something's wrong, right? Okay. So we're going to just update, and what do we get? So there's the request. It says optional 598 bytes. That's not good. Let's see, what about if we said I want to get the movie? What's the movie type? Let's do that. So that's not really much. Movie, which is kind of the issue, right? Let's output the movie that we're sending. I want to see that movie. That's going to be sent to the back end. Okay, so what's the movie look like? All right, here's the movie. So it says title, optional, in quotations, writers, that looks good, actors, optional, Harrison Ford, year, optional, 1980. This is good, length. So it looks like what we're sending is okay. After the Rebels, blah, blah, blah. MPA rating is PG. Critics rating is 8.7. So, I mean, to me, the movie looks like it's okay, right? That's what it looks like. It's okay. Okay? What does it look like for you guys? I think it looks okay for me. Are we missing anything? Studio, 20th Century Fox, genre is coming back proper. And we're taking this action adventure fantasy. All right, well let's get some feedback. We're going to have to make some changes to the API, unfortunately. So otherwise, I'm not getting any information back. So it's important because at the end of the day, I mean, we're not getting information back, and we have to put this up, right? So let's do some stuff. Let's do some work, guys. That's how it goes, right? And here, what we have is, in order for us to do this locally, what we're going to have is the stuff that we have up online. So that's the API. And we also have the, just going to make sure that I'm not completely off base here. So that is this. And the API is here, but I don't think we have the information for our .m file and so on. We can get that. We can build that back up because we can get it from render. And we also have to do a yarn and all that stuff. Let's do all that stuff. So we're going to say yarn install. Let's do that. Okay, so there's our yarn install. We have all that stuff, which should take away the errors. I'm going to also put in under the .m file that we need, right? Because otherwise you won't be able to work without the .env file. So let's do that. And I think that's going to have to be here. So .env. And the .m file is going to be coming from render. Let's go to render. And let's go to environment. And let's grab the app secret and put that back into VS Code. So we're going to say that app secret is equal to, and we're going to go back to here, and go back to that, copy. Troubleshooting, my friends. Troubleshooting 101. We want to see what the problem is. And that's what we have to do. We have to get some more information from the problem. Okay, we're there. Okay. And just going to go to render. Copy all that. Go back to there. And oh yeah, we need the actual API key. Sorry. Let's go back to this. Grab that and go back to here and put that in, and that would be good. So let's try that out. So we're going to save that file and we're going to clear, and we're going to say tsc -- version. Let's see what that version is. Good. So we're going to say tsc -w, which is going to start things in watch mode. Yeah, I don't care about that. That's just a passport thing. We're going to add another terminal, and we're going to say nodemon. Okay, so we're going to say npm install nodemon -g. This is npm. Yeah, sure. npm install -g npm at 10.8.2. That's what it's basically saying to do. Here it is. Good. And then we'll say npm, let's try that again, npm install nodemon -g. Good. And then nodemon. Excellent. This is what we want. So we connected to MongoDB Atlas. We're good. Testing. Testing, testing. So instead of, this is where we can test locally with our API, right? Let's try this out. Back to Xcode, right? Because, you know, we want to test locally. So we can change some of this stuff, right? So we can test locally. So if I go back to main storyboard, and let's just stop the editor, assistant editor from happening. I'm going to go back to this. I'm going to go back to movie view controller, and what I want to do is I want to change this so that it works localhost. So I'm just going to copy paste this part, copy paste, and then I'm going to comment out this part, and then I'm going to change this to localhost /API. So it's going to be like localhost /API. Okay, and let's see if this works just like this. Can I go to my localhost and do that? I'm just going to run this again, and don't show this again, and replace. And does it work? An error, it says unsupported URL. Okay, well, let's make the proper URL. So http // localhost. Let's try that again. Okay, it doesn't like that. Cannot connect to the server. Okay. And 127.0.0.1. How about that? So that's exactly what I want to use. And by the way, to test this, be the same thing. Localhost. Oh yeah, we have to go 3000, don't we? Duh. Yeah. Okay. /API /movies /list. Movie list. Movie /list. There we go. So that's what we want. That's locally. And we want to get this. Localhost 3000 API movie list. I'll be okay. It's just me being dumb. So back to this. So it's localhost 3000 API movie list. There we go. And run that again. Excellent. So now we have more control because now we're running locally, right? And now the next part is when I go to the API edit view controller, we'll just change these URL strings as well. We'll just copy paste. So this is a great way of testing locally, right? So we're going to say that the URL string is going to be, instead of render, we're going to just test locally now. So we're going to say that that is going to be localhost 3000, and the same thing goes with this one. Just going to copy paste this so we can do a post request for add, and we're going to comment this one out, and we're going to do no HTTPS. We're going to do HTTP because we're not going to use HTTPS for that one. Localhost 3000, localhost 3000, API movie add. Okay, so that's the two links, and then now we can try them out. And we can get more information from our, I want to see the same problem occur. So again, went here, here it is, added view controller, and then I click update. Okay, we got this information, but nothing happened. What happened on our server? So back to our server, and it said 500. So this is what we got, right? We're good. Okay. So what caused the 500? This is where we start tracing. Okay. We start tracing. So we know that the link is correct, movie, update, and so on. So that's in the update controller. So that's in here, in the movie controller. And we're going to do the display movie by ID, no. Add movie, no. We're in here, update movie. All right. So, okay. And we got to this. It says list, make sure it's the right list. We got to there. Else, we try to do this. And did we get to our movie to update? Did we get to here? So let's do a console log. Console log. Movie to update, right? And I want to output that movie to update to the console to see if we're good to go. How about actually do a Command S instead of what we did earlier? Command S. There we go. All right, let's try it out and try that again. So back to iOS, and we're going to do the same thing. We don't have to rerun it because we already have it running. Nothing's changed here, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go there. We're going to click update, and we got request that sends back. That's the request that goes over. And now, what did we get here? It says connected to Mongo, and then we did this. And so it never made it here, right? Because if it did, it would give us this movie, right? See how we never got to this point. It crapped out somewhere up here. Somewhere up here. So what happened, actually? What happened? All right, well, let's see if we got to this point. So console log. Got here. Got here. Okay? So again, save. Because this is in the update movie method. That's what's happening, right? Did we get to this point, right? And back to this. And we're just going to go here and update. Got here. See that got here? We made it there. We made it to this point. So something happened inside of our sanitize array function. Something happened here where the request.body.genre that we got in, right, was malformed somehow. Something happened in our sanitize array. Our sanitize array function is the problem, my friends. Something that's happening here. So let's see, because if we don't get these done properly, then movies, this will be wrong, and it'll fail, something that's failing here. Okay, so what is failing? So let's print out the first one. Let's do a console log request.body.genre. Okay, what are we getting here? And we'll say that this is the genre, right? Which is the request.body.genre. We're going to kind of print out this thing. So I want to know what the genre is. Save. There we go. And let's do that again. And come to here. Update. Action, adventure, fantasy. This is pretty good. I mean, that's the genre. It looks like it's broken up somehow. So now so we got to here. Can we get to the next line? Can we get to here? Can we get to this point? So console log genre is equal to genre. Can we do this? We know we got to this point. We're good up to here. But something happens when we get to this point. We get a 500. All right, so something's going on with sanitize array that's causing an issue. Okay, so let us save that and try it again. You see where I'm going, guys? Like guys online? I'm trying to isolate the issue. All right, so update. Okay, notice how we didn't even get there? That means before we check to see if request.bodyGenres is okay. Yes, it is. Then we sanitize the array. Okay, when we sanitize the array, we convert our this as a string. That's what we do. We're converting as a string. Let's go to sanitize array. Can we actually get there? So now we're in the sanitize array function, right? And let's get to this, and we'll say print console log sanitize array. We're sanitizing the array. Do we get to this point? Or is it broken? Like we even break before we get here, right? So let's see. Because we're isolating. Okay. And wrong one. I meant to go there, and I meant to look that up there, and come to here, and update. We made it to sanitizing array. This is good. Okay. So now, here is where the issue is, somewhere in here. So unsanitized array, we're going to do input string split. We're splitting by this. Okay. Okay. Oh, you know what? I think I know what it is. Take a look at this, guys. So, so we did this, all that kind of stuff is good. And then we got action, comma, space, adventure, comma, space, fantasy. So we need to trim this a little bit, right? Because each of these, well, actually, it's already split up for us. But we need to split it by this. And so we need to create the array. So we're going to try and make it so that this string is turning into an array. All right, so that's the problem here. Let's try this again. So unsanitized array, we're going to spring. Let's do a console log. Can we get to this point? Console log unsanitized array. Let's see what that is. Okay, so we say that unsanitized array plus. All right, we got to this point. We need to do that. We're going to save that, go back to this, and try it again. Yeah, so it won't even sanitize the array. Look at it. It didn't do it. It can't do this. It can't do an input string split. It can't do the split. Why isn't it doing it? Is it going to be splitting by, so it's basically splitting by this, right? And it can't do that for some reason. Why? What do you guys think it is? So how about we do a try catch? Try. No. I want to do a try catch where I want to put this part in here. Let's try this. Okay. Console. I want to say catch. Error. And let's output the error that we're getting if we can't do this part. And we also need to, can't do the let here, we have to do the let here. So let unsanitized array, yeah, is equal to an array of strings. Are we converting it somewhere else? We're doing it here, sanitize array. No. So we're going to say that this is just a string. So this is just going to be a string. String. A string. All right, so that's what we're going to say. So unsanitized array is a string. We're just going to input string and split to a string of thing. Because what does input string do? Split does string split returns an array of strings. So actually it is an array. Unsanitized array is equal to array of strings. That's correct. And then this one will be this, which will be good. So it's supposed to return an array of strings, but it doesn't. And then we're going to get the error. If there's an error, we're going to catch it, and we're going to console log the error. Error is plus. There we go. And let's try that again. Getting closer. Input string split is not a function. Input string split. Why? And that's why this issue is happening. That's what the problem is. Wait, so I just updated the database with nothings. That's what this is, because what this did was it went through here and it couldn't do it, and then it just returned an error. And so that was the issue. This is the problem, splitting. All right, well, let's see what my solution was for this. Because I definitely had this problem before. I'm guessing I probably had this problem before. And my guess is that I fixed this problem. What do you guys think? All right, let's go and see what that thing is. Okay. Okay. I think what we're going to do is modify this thing. So we're going to say, because if this is the issue, sanitized array is going to be basically a string, but what if it's a string array already that I'm getting? Or it's a string array. What if it's a string array? So if sanitized array is a string, or is one, or a string array, I will accept either, right? Then what I want to do is I want to check if the array is array input string, right? And if it's an array already, what if it's already an array? Then I want to return the input string. If it's a string already, I want to just return that back out. Dot map will say value, and we will do a value dot trim right there. Okay. So if it's already a string, we're going to return that out. Else if it's not a string, if the type of input string is a string, and only then if it's a string itself, because this is the problem that we're looking at right now, right? And I guess I know I'm running late, but we got to fix this problem, or else you're not going to be in very good shape at all. Then the input string dot split, and then we'll map our value like it says here to, and we'll trim it. Okay. Else else, what about if it's not neither of those things, right? Then if it's neither that or the other, then we can return an empty string, an empty array. I think this is better than what we had. Because what we tried to do is we created a string array and all this kind of stuff, and then we kind of pushed it out, but then we couldn't do this because it didn't exist. So really, at the end of the day, we don't need to return this part, right? We don't even need all this. This is all gone. And I think that, I think this is pretty good. All right, so sanitize array, again, what it's going to do is it's going to take the input string, check it to see what type it is, and if the input string that we're getting is a string or a string array, it's going to check to see which one it is. Is it a string or a string array? If it's already an array, map and trim it out, right, and return that part. If it's not an array, and if it's a string only, if it's a string, then split it, okay, as an example. And that's what it's going to do. Otherwise, return empty. And we're going to say, we're going to also do a console log, invalid input type. We're going to do that. So we're going to say like that is going to be something that we're going to get. It's not a string and it's not an array. Something else. It's something else that we're going to get. Okay. And let's see what we get with that part. So back to the drawing board. We're going to use this, and we're going to do this. Now, we don't have genre. We're going to put in here sci-fi, science fiction. The director is going to be George Lucas. Right? We're going to say it's George Lucas. It's not. Writer is going to be Lawrence Kasdan. I'm making it up. The actors is going to be Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher. Okay, and all the rest is the same. So we've added all of these, and this is science. We'll say science fiction, fantasy, right? For this one, so genre is going to be the first thing. The first step is going to happen. So let's do that, and let's see what happened. So if I go back to this. Then let's see what happened now. All right, so it said that, did it work? So Star Wars Episode 5, Empire Strikes Back. Look at this, science fiction fantasy. This is good. And, but this is bad, right? Look at what it did. It said this just returned a string. It didn't really return an array of strings, right? This is just one big long string. That's what it did. So how does this come back out? Well, that's the problem, isn't it? Right? It's not an array of strings. It's a big string. So maybe it's the way that it was there. I mean, it's going to work, but it's not exactly what we asked for. Okay. Well, let's see if what we get back. So if I go back to this, and if I go to edit again, yeah, this is actually, it works. It's okay, right? Because we got everything back again. Right, so that's pretty good actually. I'm pretty happy with that. So that was the issue. The issue was our sanitize function. Whew, my God, right? All that to fix that. So we're going to say that. We're going to say that. Let's add that in. So we're going to say that git add dot git commit minus m. We're modifying ICE7 API, but we need to git commit minus m, and we'll say something like updated. Sanitize array, right? That's what we did. Now we want to take away some of this garbaggio that we have in here. We did a console error and all that stuff, but we also did in the movie.ts, we did all of this. I don't have to see all this anymore. So we're going to just take that out. That was the issue. The sanitize array function caused our problem, and that was a problem for us because then we couldn't get everything back. And that's what caused us to have issues. All right, so let's save that. And we're going to put this also up. So we'll say git add dot, git commit minus m. We'll say added we'll say updated movie.ts git push. So it goes to ICES, right? But we have another project that actually pushes up to the server that we have to put up right now. Okay, just to FYI. So if I go back to this, like here in my local thing, I have we know that it's an API that we're sending out to thing, and we don't have that here. We have Georgian and we have ICES, but we don't have the API. So that's okay, we can get that. So what I'm going to do here in order for me to get the API is go up here and go git. And then what I want to do is the API is what we did last week, which is this one. Right, so I just want to grab that one. So I'm just going to grab the code for that. So I'm going to copy it. And then going back to this, I'm going to swim up one level. And then we're at Georgian. I'm going to say git clone. And I'm going to paste that in, right? And we'll paste the API in here as well. So that's where it's going to be. And what that means is that now we have API, which is what we want. And remember what we did for this? We removed everything except for the .git folder, right? So inside the API file, we get rid of all this. So delete. And this is the easiest way. I mean, clearly we can do it a different way, but we're going to do it this way. Then I'm going to grab all the stuff for my API from last week, this one. So I'm going to copy all that. And then I'm going to paste it inside of the API. There it is. Right. And then what I want to do with this to test this is drag and drop this into VS Code. Right. So again, back to VS Code. We did good work here. We figured out the error, I think. And we're just going to grab the API and bring it in. And I want you guys to think about all the things I went through. I know that this is git commit -m. We'll say fixed issue with sanitize array. Sanitize function. Git push. Now this is going to push up to render, and we have to wait. Okay, but I want you guys to think about the process that I went through, right? And the process that I went through was kind of sneaky, right? It was like me going to the local API, running it, changing the what I'm pointing to from pointing up online to render to pointing to the local API to test with specifically with Xcode, right? Because Xcode was causing the issue, right? I'm finally trying to get information from an actual form, which is what I'm using with Xcode. That's what this thing is. This thing right here is a form that I'm filling out, right? And the body of the information is right in here, right? So I want to be able to test and send stuff over, because if I can't do it here, then it definitely will fail with Android, right? That's what will happen. So let's see if we're back up. So again, I'm just going to go here to this, and we'll go back to our dashboard. And no, it's still deploying. And let's see how this works. And yep, now it's live. Okay, so finally it's live. And what we need to do now is we need to change the stuff in our Xcode project. Right, there we go. And what I want to do here is change it back. So I'm going to comment out this part. I'm going to comment in these parts. So comment out this part. And so if I have to go back and test locally again, I'm going to be good. Like I don't want to go through this again. You know what I'm saying? Where I commented it out and commented it back in and all that stuff. And same thing with movie controller. We're going to comment this out and comment this back in, right? So we can test remotely again. Okay, and let's just rebuild everything that we had before. Good, there we are. So now let's do the update. Let's change this to matrix 2. That was the original thing we wanted to do. So change this to matrix 2 and then click update, and hey, look at that. Whew, all that work for that. Okay, that's pretty good. Let's add a new movie in there, right? So first of all, let's test to see that this is all good. Yeah, it looks like it's all good, right? We can cancel and we can add a new movie. So add a new movie adds nothing. So the movie ID would be like number 5, right? And let's say the title for the new movie is Godzilla -1, right? And let's find the studio information because I don't know what that is. So let's just add it in. So Godzilla -1, right? And we'll get that information from Wikipedia. There it is. So it's these are the writers and the producers and all these stars that were amazing. I really like this movie. Traditional movie that was kind of really cool. And cinematography was really awesome and all that kind of stuff. So the release date, running time, 120 to 25 minutes. But who was the producers, right? So looks like produced by a bunch of people, right? Oh, here's production companies. Toho, here it is, I'm sorry. The production company was Toho Studios. We're just going to use that, okay? So, or Toho, there we go. Distributed by Toho. Toho Studios is the one that's going to be. So back to this, we're going to say the studio was Toho Studios. Genre was definitely, I would say, you know, monster movie. You know, it's kind of a science fiction. And by the way, if this isn't any good, remember we can always look it up on Rotten Tomatoes or whatever. So we can say Rotten Tomatoes, and we can look up that as well. We can look up, you know, Godzilla -1, and there it is, Godzilla -1, and then we'll get the information from here too, right? So. Great little movie, Toho Studios. So here we are. Director is Takashi Yamazaki. So we'll grab that information there. So that's the director. We'll go back to this, and we'll put that in there as the director, right? And the writers, same guy. Right, so that's awesome that he was able to just write it and direct it on his own. That's amazing, right? And oops, let's grab that again. Control C, or Command C and Command V. Takashi Yamazaki. There we go. Actors. I wonder if I can do this properly. Sci-fi action adventure is what they said for this. Sci-fi action adventure. Let's see who the actors are. Producers, rating, running time in minutes. Run time is 2 hours. We'll get back to the actors in a second. The length is 2 hours and 5 minutes. That's 125 minutes. The year was 2023. And the short description. Japan is already devastated, but now it's going to be attacked by a giant monster. Oops. There we go. Okay, so that's that. MPA rating. PG-13 for creature violence and action. And it's 98%, but we can also get that from Metacritic. So if I go to metacritic.com and go to Godzilla -1, then we can get a rating, which is 8.3, right? So, or in our case, if we're on a 5-point scale, it would be 4 point something, right? But for us, it's 8.3, and it's really great. And it's PG-13. Okay, so that's what we know all the things now. So, except for the actors, we're going to get to the actors in a second. So again, it's PG-13, and critics rating is 8.3. And the actors are the people that we need. Written, directed. I think we're going to go there to Wikipedia now. So I thought I saw better actors there. I just need one. Written by. I guess I can put some of these people. Minami Hamabe. Those aren't the actors. Hold on a second. Let's go to Wikipedia. So we're going to say Godzilla -1. And we're going to go to Wikipedia. And we're going to get some of these people here. We're going to grab this person. He's a top billing actor. And we'll go here. Put that in. And we'll also put in just the top 3. So one thing that we're missing here that you would need is the URL, the movie URL, if you want to see the URL itself. So we got a couple of them anyways. So let's add that in and see what happens. So add, and now we have Godzilla -1. Look, it actually happened, and we actually got all the information. Add is working. All right, so that's pretty good. Let's now do the delete, right? So we'll add a garbage movie, and then we'll add a delete function, so we can do all of those. So far we've been able to do create, read, update, but we don't have the delete. Okay, so back to this. We're going to say that cd, let's do ls first, cd MDEV1004 -M2024 ICES, and we're going to say clear git add dot git commit -m, and we'll say that finished create, read, and update functionality at this point. Okay, git push. There we go. So that has been done. So create, read, and update functionality for iOS is done so far. Now, let's see if we can do this, and we'll take a short break, and then I'm going to continue. You guys can take off. I'm going to go until I'm done Android as well. You don't have to stick around, but I want to be able to present all that stuff to you so that you know how to make a choice. I know you guys are doing iOS, and this is pretty good, but I want to make sure we can do Android as well. So I know we're going to probably go over. I'm probably going to go to 3 hours, or sorry, an extra hour, probably 4 hours. Again, you don't have to stick around, but let's do this part first. So what I'm looking at now is the next part of the project, which is I want to be able to swipe, and I want to be able to, delete. I want to be able to delete on swipe, if that makes sense, right? Okay. So how does this work? So we were able to do, we don't need this anymore. Thank you very much for that movie information. We're not going to delete that movie. It's a good movie. We're going to go back to Xcode with all this junk that we're getting now from this. We can kind of go down to here. We don't care about that anymore. And we need to, we need to clean it up a little bit, because we did already clean up most of it. We said missing data fields and all this kind of stuff. We were able to clean up this part to some degree, but I think we can remove some of these things because we don't care. We know that it's working now. Like that's the main thing. And if we have this working, then I think like the delete functionality will be pretty straightforward. That's my guess. Make sure that I don't have anything else in there that I don't want. A lot of good printing. I'm leaving those little things in there just in case we have to troubleshoot next week. So that way we have the ability to do local testing as opposed to, just what we've been doing so far. I don't think there's anything else I need to remove. I think I got pretty much everything here. Okay, so now we're able to add, but we need to be able to delete. And in order for us to do that, I want to implement a swipe gesture, right? And I want to do it pretty much down here. So here's my add button pressed. And then, before the add button pressed and underneath the set prepare for segue, I think this is where I want to put the swipe left gesture. This is how you do the gesture. I'm going to go func, and we're going to do a table view. And the table view that I want is commit edit editing style, which is what I want. So commit. So by the way, you can start typing. If you say commit table view, and then you say commit table view, and then UI table view, and then commit editing style, and you're going to say UI table view cell dot editing style for row at index path, and we're going to say that is just index path. Oops. This is the function. Okay. Make sure that I'm not wrong. Table view, UI table view. We'll say commit editing style, UI table view, and then dot editing style. That's what's missing. I didn't type that in properly. There we go. And then what we want is to basically say if editing style, right, is the delete gesture, which is swipe left to right. If it's the delete gesture, then what do I want to do? I want to let movie be equal to the movies at the index path, right, dot row. That's what I want. And what I want is I want to be able to show a delete confirmation, right, that this is going to happen, right? So underneath here, let's make another little function in preparation. I'm going to say func. We're going to say show delete confirmation alert. I'm going to make an alert that comes up, right? And the confirmation alert is for movie with a completion that is at escaping bool, and we're going to say that this returns void, and I need to take out that extra bracket. There we go. Okay, so that's what it's going to be. And then what I want, if I did this correctly, is let alert equal to a UI alert controller with the title. There we go. This one. The title is going to be delete movie. The message is going to be, are you sure you want to delete this movie, right? And the preferred style is dot alert. So that's the kind of message that I want. That's the alert that I want. What did I do here wrong? For movie, completion at escaping. Oh, void, capital V. That'll be okay. Awesome. All right. So, so then the alert, I'm going to say alert dot add action, and the action I'm going to do is if type the action is going to be a UI alert action, which is going to have a title and style. The title is going to be cancel, so that's going to be the and the style for this is going to be a dot cancel. So basically this is going to be the alert that I'm going to make for the negative button, which is kind of cancel or delete. And this is going to have in, and we're going to say completion is false. Okay, so that's what that's going to be. So if we have that as an action, we're still building the alert at this point. Alert, we're going to say add action, and the action is going to be a UI alert action, which is going to have a style and a title. The title is going to be delete. The style is going to be dot destructive, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to say that in completion is true. So this is, we want this to work. This is positive, the positive button basically. And then we're going to present the alert, animated is equal to true, and completion is equal to nil. All right, there we go. So that is what the show delete confirmation alert function will do. I just want to make sure that I didn't get anything wrong. I got extra brackets in here. Oh, no, I didn't have extra brackets. I put them in the wrong spot. So it's not here, but rather here. There we go. So that's the object that I'm creating. All right. Okay, so now that this is done and I've made this thing, then what we can do is we can add it in to my to my call. So so once I swipe left, yes, I make a movie and stuff like this out of the current movie. I kind of capture that movie, but what I want to do is do that show delete confirmation alert. So I'm going to say show delete confirmation alert, and I go for the movie, which is movie, completion, which is, and this is the completion part, right? I'm going to break it out like this, where basically the completion, we're going to use the completion closure again, right? And the completion closure is going to be here, where we're going to say confirmed, right, in, and down in here we're going to say if confirmed, if that's true, then what do we want to do? We want to self dot, and I want to be able to delete the movie, right? I don't have this, so we're going to say delete movie. This is where we're going to do it right here, right? But we need a delete movie function for this, right? And so let's put that right in here. So we'll say function, we're going to call this delete movie, right? At index path, we'll say, and index path is what we're going to use. Okay, so index path. And the way the delete movie function will be is let movie, the movie that we pass in here, equal to movies at index path dot row. That's what we want. Okay, the movies at index path dot row. And then what we want to do is, okay, well, if we're deleting for next week, we need token here, right? But for this week, we don't need to do that. We're going to do a guard let and URL is equal to the URL string, where we're going to say that we have the URL here. Let's go back up and grab that URL. This one. And instead of list, we're going to say delete, and we're going to pass in the movie ID that we want to delete here. So API delete, right? And then slash movie dot underscore ID. That is the URL. And else, we're going to say, if it doesn't work, then we're going to print invalid URL somehow if it's no good, and then we're going to return. So that is going to be our delete movie, right? And the delete movie is going to basically perform the delete movie request. We're not done yet. We have to. That's actually the URL. We have to actually make the request. So var request, that's equal to the URL request. Of course, we have to do this. And where URL is the URL. And we're going to say request.http method, in this case, is equal to delete. Okay, that's what that is. And then for next week, we need to apply the token, bearer token, here. So this is where we have to make that, add that to the request object itself. And then we'll say let task equal to the URL session dot shared dot data task with the request. That's the request object itself, and the completion handler is going to be here, where we're going to have the completion body, which is weak self, and then data response and error in if let error equals to error. We've seen this before. Then we want to print failed to delete movie, right? So we're going to see why with the error that we're going to get back, right? If we got an error, and then we're going to return. Okay, there we go. Otherwise, if we don't do that, we're going to go back to the dispatch queue main.async, and we're going to say is self movies, sorry. So we're removing from the movies array that we're keeping at the inside of our memory. We're going to remove that item at index row because we don't want to have that in memory. We have an in-memory movies array, and then self dot table view dot delete rows. I also want to delete rows at index path with dot fade. So we have the effect that we're going to have is a fade. That's the kind of animation. We can use other ones too. There's fade, there's top, there's bottom. I'm just going to use the fade effect, right? And then just before we exit out of this, we're going to say task dot resume. Okay, because that we're kind of using an async task here, and this is the delete movie method, right? So delete movie is what we needed. Okay, back to this part. So now that we have the delete movie method, then what do we do? Because we've tried to do a swipe gesture, and the swipe gesture needs that. So this is where we're going to delete the movie. We're going to say that self dot delete movie, right, at, and then index path is what we want to do. Okay, so there we are. All right, this is the code. Let's test it. So again, I'm just going to hide this stuff, and I'm going to go back to running it. We're going to add a bad movie. Oh yeah, now it's of course timing out because this is not running. We have to wait. So you can see this is quite a process. That's what I'm going to say here. Quite the process. And I'm already at 2:21, so I've ran 20 minutes over. I know it's long, guys, and this is just for the iOS side, not the Android side yet. But what we're going to do is, as soon as I'm done this, like I said, I'll take a short break. I'll come back and I'll continue to record the Android side, and that'll be the third recording. So if you want to do Android, you do that part, right? But for the in-class exercise, you need both. Okay, so again, it's a little long, but I know I'm pushing you guys a little bit. But the reason why I want you guys to do this, so you see both things, and there might be students who want to do one thing or the other thing, and that's why I'm showing you both ways of doing it. Okay, so a little bit of work for me, some work for you. But I think the great thing about this is you have a chance to explore both platforms, kind of at a decent amount of a detail, right? Which is something that I think is important. And that's why I'm presenting it to you. Otherwise, I wouldn't. Like, I wouldn't do all this work unless it was absolutely necessary for you guys to know this kind of stuff, and I think it is. So one day when this thing finally spins up, this is kind of one of the negative things about render. I like it. I don't like the fact that it spins down. I think it'd be nice if it didn't spin down. Even if it was slow, I'm okay with it being slow. I'm not okay with it spinning down like this. This is like where it's, kind of bad. But it is free. So, I mean, got to take the good with the bad. And the free part, totally like, right? The spinning down part, not so much. Right? But anyways, that's how it goes. So hopefully you guys are, you're enjoying this part. I know this is a lot of code and everything else, but I think what you're seeing, the pattern that we're seeing on the iOS side is, hey, you know what? There's all these completion closures that are happening, right? And at the end, what I'm hoping is, like I was saying to some of our students here that were in class, is you have a pattern that you're going to take away for assignment 3 and 4. So let's wait until this is done, and then we'll move on to the next piece. Got a bit of a tour happening, it looks like. And let's make sure that our render is functioning okay too. We're not broken. Yeah, no, it looks like we're not broken. It just seems that we're still spun down, as you can still see. So if I do this and refresh, then you're going to see that, yeah, indeed, it's timing out right now. And again, all I want to do is prove that we can delete stuff, right? And also, I think it's good practice what we did today, which is I showed you how to troubleshoot. Like, what if you're formulating your stuff and things aren't working? What do you do? And how do you fix it? How do you fix this up? At that perspective. Yeah, I'm trying to make this. If you're watching this and you're waiting for this thing to spin up, move ahead, right? Because I'm going to keep talking until this is done. And then the third video we're going to make is just on Android. I don't want to continue beyond this video for iOS, right? Again, we had some issues that we handled. I also had some technical issues earlier today that caused some of those delays. So that's why I was able to do this kind of stuff. It's taking a long time. And I hope I didn't break it. Because I could have broken it too. And if I did, that is like a real problem for me. And then I'll stop the video. And then, we'll fix it, and I'll come back and it'll be done again. But yeah, render sometimes can take quite a long time, as you can clearly see. It's taking a long time for it to spin back up. Let's see if I can hit it with another. Oh, there it is. Okay, and now we know that it worked because at the end, you know, we have Godzilla -1. There we go. Okay, awesome. So we got this part. Let's see if we can make that work. So again, you know, we requested timeout, and we're just going to go and rerun this request, and we should see everything working. There's Godzilla -1. Let's add another movie, and this movie will be like number 6, and we'll say, you know, movie to delete. Here's another one, studio to, that doesn't matter. Right, and some genre and another, some director and another, some writer and another, some actor and another. I'm doing this so that we can test all everything's working. Length is 50 minutes, year is 2024, short description, we'll say some a useless description. MPA rating is going to be R, and critics rating is going to be 4.5. And let's click add. There it is. So now we have color 4.5, movie to delete. That's the one we want to delete. Now I want to do the swipe gesture and be able to do that. And it says, as soon as I do that swipe gesture, it says, hey, are you sure you want to delete that movie, this movie? And I want to click, if I click cancel, then it doesn't delete it, right? If I do it again, and then I click delete, then it should delete the movie, and then it's gone from the database. All right, my friends, this is full CRUD. And I'm going to put this up on GitHub for you. This is full CRUD for iOS. When I come back with the next video, we're going to do finish full CRUD with Android. Okay. So let's put this up on GitHub. So we're going to say git add dot git commit -m, and we'll say updated, or sorry, we'll say performed full CRUD with iOS. Git push. Okay, that's it. And then I'll stop this movie, and it's 2:28. I'm going to come back in about 10 minutes. And for those people who want to continue watching, you can. You know, but you need to do both. For in-class exercise number 8, you need iOS and Android. I updated my API. You can update your API. I think the API online is fine. I don't expect you guys to create a whole other you know, link. Just update your sanitize array function. That was the problem. That was my issue. I should have thought about that. What if you're getting one thing or another thing? And that's the problem that we had. Okay, so